Welcome to the 94 by 50 podcast. I'm your host, Ilyas Kurbanov. Today, joined again, BG Brandon Graham of First and 10 podcast.
Mhm.
Big weekend coming up in Quebec City. Laval University hosting the final eight, both men's and women's national championships in basketball.
Mhm.
Ooh, this is going to be an exciting one. First time in 20 plus years. Carleton is not part of the tournament, at least the
Incredible.
men's side. The women's is the number two seed. And that will be, yeah, that will be one for the books. It's
Mhm.
anyone's to grab.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, no, Dave Smart, right? Dave Smart was pretty much a god at Carlton with all the guys he had recruit. He just recruited his butt off, and seeing it's a really exciting eight teams. Seeing Ottawa GGs. I've seen some of the Ottawa GGs games, so seeing them get an at birth, so at large birth. Being 19-3, that's it's gonna be an exciting weekend, man. You know your stuff, of course, but man, what a game on the weekend, and I can't wait to watch some of the games. Hopefully, it's going to be on national TV, so it's going to be a great weekend of basketball.
Yeah, it should be on CBC Sports like always, like the past few years, at least since they moved on from Sportsnet.
Hmm.
I don't even remember the last time Sportsnet actually covered. Probably would have been, I want to say 2019 would have been the
Hmm.
last time when I believe Dal was hosting in Halifax in the Metro Center,
Hmm.
which is always electric if you've ever been to the Metro Center and Scotiabank Center in Halifax, Nova Scotia. But this time around, Laval has great facilities. I've been
Hmm.
there a few times back when I was playing with Champlain
Hmm.
College St. Lambert, and anytime we had a road trip to Quebec City playing against Saint Foy, would be having our shoot around
Hmm.
at Laval, which is, yeah, their court probably could seat
Incredible.
a decent, I want to say anywhere between 5 to 8,000 people
Oh wow.
in that
Oh
arena.
wow.
Yeah, it's massive. It is
Okay.
massive.
All
But
right.
let's kick it
Nice.
off. Number one seed Victoria, no surprise,
Yeah.
have been dominant all year long. Did not obviously clinch the Canada West Conference. Had Ottawa Giggies. Um,
GG's. GG's.
GGs. Yeah, I was like,
GG's.
wait a second. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the GGs had they done better in the conference tournament, maybe would have snuck in as a number one seed as they were ranked nationally number one for the majority of this basketball season. But Victoria, led by Diego Mafia,
Hmm.
Montreal
Mafia.
boy, Ronaldo
Nasty.
Robinson,
Right.
amazing player. I
Yeah.
feel like I wouldn't say anymore that he's slept on because now he's put the country on notice with some of his performances over the
Hmm.
season. But still, that team is incredible when it comes down to scoring. They could get volumes of shooting and from variety of players.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Diego Moffat, you mentioned him, but I've known he's been on the radar for a long period of time, and even talking to guys from MPH North Pole Hoops, they talk about him, they rave about him, of course, too, and understanding and knowing some of the players that are on the Calgary Dinos and them playing, going back and forth overall as well too, over the years, and knowing a few players there on Calgary. He always gave them problems. He always gives a lot of those guys problems. So Maffa is definitely a problem. I think he'll go on to play pro for sure. And yeah, not as surprised as you said. You watch these guys, Victoria. You're more on that side, of course, as I'm on the east end. But and of course that house you know as well too, because you're all across Canada. You're Canada wide, so you know.
To have the opportunity actually to be on the West Coast now and see this incredible talent that the West Coast has, and comparing it to what the AUS and RSCQ and obviously OUA has had in number of years. I feel like this is I've kind of said it when I was talking to a couple of people at UBC. Is like it might be Victoria's to lose, genuinely.
Hmm.
With
Hmm.
Diego Mafia, with obviously Ronaldo Robinson, they have the defensive player of the year, the Canada West defensive player of the year on the roster as well. They potentially will sweep a lot of awards this year.
Right.
Just based on what they were able to achieve throughout the regular season.
Hmm.
But when it comes down to the national stage, a lot of things go out of the window. And, them being the number one seed last year, they defeated the UPI Panthers in the first game of the tournament, and then fell in the semifinals and eventually lost the bronze medal game to the GGs, who were
Mhm.
red hot as well in the OUA this year. And Brock, the Badgers, came in
Mhm.
first, took down Carlton,
Yeah.
then took down the
Ottawa.
GGs,
Yeah, the GGs. Yep. Yeah.
then took down Western.
Huge,
All of
man.
these teams that were pretty much dominant and ranked in the nation for the entire year, pretty much
Incredible
lost
run.
to a nobody in a
Right.
way, you know. And then they gave the work to the Gales, but my goodness, that shot by
Silas.
Siles,
Yeah, incredible. But
incredible.
once again with Mafia, he's the first player I believe to go Canada West player back-to-back seasons since I believe 1971. So that's a huge feat right there. Of course, no, sorry, 96, 97, 98 as well too from Eric uh, Henriksen. Right, he's the only other Vikes player ever to win it back-to-back. So Mafia is obviously a problem, but they're number one. You have all these guys. If you literally look at the actual table, they have a pretty. It doesn't matter. Every team they play is going to be tough, right? They have Laval initially first, and then yeah, have to continue going. And of course, they play the most likely the Brock Badgers in the second. Well, you could speak on Dalhousie. I haven't really watched too much Dalhousie, so you can speak on them. But I've seen Brock. I've had a really close family friend on the girls' team last year, Teresa Brown, and she's just one of the best scorers in all of the West from Sheridan College to Brock University. And seeing the guys play every time I see her come down to Toronto, they were always good. They were good last year, and I knew they're gonna definitely elevate their game. And incredible run taking down all those ranked teams, and you can just see if anyone believes that momentum is not real, watch the Brock Badgers, man. Momentum is the realest thing in sports, man.
Especially, come down to the playoffs, you catching fire at the right time of the year, right?
Exactly.
You're being the dominant force. You're doing things right. You execute, and all of a sudden, the underdog is no longer the underdog. Is the most feared
Exactly.
opponent in the
Yep.
field,
Mhm.
and especially come March, this is the time of the year that anything could legit happen, and it's not gonna catch anyone by surprise anymore.
Yeah.
And if
Absolutely
you
not.
are surprised, if you think that Brock is the team that, well, they just got, no, they did not get lucky.
No.
They did not get lucky. They dominated and they executed, and they put themselves in a position to be successful. And that shot could have rimmed off. Next thing you know, they go into OT and it's anyone's game.
Exactly.
So
Salad can call bank, right? Like, he didn't really know it was going in either. But that team, they're the character on the Queens Gales, and we'll get to them. But I just want to say, probably my favorite player in all of U Sports, and I haven't watched too much of him, but Sam Milett. Hey, the flow the man has. Game
Sam Maya.
Sam Maya. My bad, Dalhousie guy. My bad. But listen, Sam Maya, unreal. He reminds me of the player for Baylor a few years ago when they won the championship. Just a dog. You just know he's a dog, and he's always been a dog. He's a problem, and I'm looking forward to watching him play for Dalhousie. So, yeah, those are your
That team,
Tigers, right?
the Tigers, man, I got to give them respect. I've worked there for a very long time, and I've seen those guys develop. Like, I remember Sam being in his first year, not playing much, going through injuries. And last year, I had to deal with a couple of concussions and, being on and off a lot of times. And this year, he's been really consistent. He's one of the best two-way players in the country. I think he's very underrated. He could get to the rim, he could score, he could defend, and him being at 6'6", 6'7",
Mhm.
as quick as intelligent player that he is, he could get a lot of things done. And you know when you speak about guys like Malcolm Christie's
Mhm.
nation's top five scorer, then you have Gian Gala, who's, shout out to my boy from Montreal.
Grand God of
You know
Montreal. Yeah.
those guys, when they weren't scoring much in that championship game against the Santa FX,
Mhm.
Sam came to the rescue. He shot incredible percentages. He was 7 for 9, I believe, from the field, 3 for 3 from the 3-point line. And when you talk him not being the best shooter on the team, he isn't, by, it's not a stretch, but he's an incredible player and showed up big
Hmm.
time for the Dalhousie Tigers. But again, it's also Coach Plato, man. Like
Hmm.
I've seen Rick Plato win games in all kinds of different ways, in different fashion, and he's been incredible. He's definitely started something at Dalhousie, and him being at the helm of that team for 11 years and winning, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think 7 AUS titles
Wow, it's a lot.
in
Success.
11 years.
The new Dave Smart, eh?
You know what I mean? And they took Carlton to distance in
Hmm.
2020, right before that pandemic hit. They lost in the fourth quarter, but he's done an incredible job with that team, and those guys, they really buy into the system and they know how to execute. And that boy Malcolm, man, he's a
Bad
bad
man.
man.
Bad
When they talk about the National Player of the Year, he is most definitely up there with Diego Mafia,
Mafia. Hmm.
if not has a little edge over him,
Mafia.
based on the depth of the team
Hmm.
and how he willed the Tigers to the playoffs.
I think that's more of a biased opinion, but I'll give that. I think overall people would say that he would be the MVP, which is great. We'll see exactly what he puts together. I can't wait to watch this weekend. It's gonna be incredible, especially with March break coming on. I'm gonna just dial in and lock into this. But one guy I really respect, and it's a player that Dalhousie's going to have to really lock in and stop is Javon Brown. Javon Brown from the Brock Badgers is a problem. Jordan Chuente. Chuente is another guy that's really good for the Brock Badgers. And just don't remember, it's all about momentum. These guys are obviously going to be hungry to go out there and prove it even more. They've already beating Ottawa is a really big feat, especially now these days. They're a really good team. So the Brock Badgers, do not sleep on them. It's a 4 versus 5 seed, so anything can happen. But I'm going to give the edge to your Dalhousie Tigers for sure.
I think another player worth mentioning is Michael Okiki.
Yeah,
He's
Okiki, there we
incredible.
go.
He's been there for a few years. He's been, he knows what it takes. He's been to the playoffs. He won the OUA a few years ago, and he's definitely up there with the rest of the team. But I think we're gonna take, obviously, Victoria over Laval. The hype
Yeah,
of two RACQ teams is kind of disappointing to me, but I understand what it works, like how it
yeah,
works. Obviously, the host is automatically qualified, then the winner of the conference is automatically in as well. Um, another Ottawa play in,
hmm,
I believe, UCAM. That's going to be a very interesting game. I
yes,
believe that UCAM has a number of players that
hmm,
former Division One players,
hmm,
former players that played at Ottawa. You have Kevin Seville, who is the RSEQ's MVP, incredible player, left-handed, create can create for his teammates, can get to the hoop, shoot off the dribble. He could
hmm,
do everything. He's
hmm.
kind of like he's kind of like Giangala, my guy Ginyu.
Right.
Same way, kind of play that pesky defenders, can get to the rim, can create off dribble, open shots, whatever. I think he is going to be a guy that could legit send those guys to the semifinals, and they could compete against Queens.
They can, yeah, for sure. I think, and we haven't really touched on Queens either, but even looking at the U of Ottawa, the guys they have, and Dragon Stajic, is the Stajic? Yeah, Dragon
I believe so,
Stajic.
yes.
Yeah, Brock Newton, those guys. Like, listen, they got some guys that really, they're experienced, right? They're experienced. They're OUA All Stars. They're in the final eight. They made it there. They deserve, honestly. Obviously, being upset is huge, and anything can happen in basketball, right? You can have all the momentum in the world, but if the guy gets hot, Okiki and Brown, that stuff can happen, right? So getting the at-large bid after having, I believe, a 19-3 season is not easy to do. It's so hard to win in the OUA and consistently win, right? But man, they were champions last year. Think don't get it this year, but of course I'm going to see them. I'm going to put my hat on for the GGs because I've watched some of their games and they play well as a unit. They're coached very well. They play great defense as well too. Um, like you said, les citoyens, je pas français aussi, eh? Um, yeah,
Citadin.
yeah, they're it's gonna be a great game. I cannot wait to see those two teams go together. But because they have former D1 guys. It's just that it's a great matchup, and I think there needs to be more shine on this tournament on Canadian basketball. It's just a mentee that's just getting better and better, and I think this is the right way to play basketball. When I watch the NCAA, when I watch the CIS and the U Sports, that's the way basketball needs to be played from the offensive side of the ball, defensive, the pressing, the intensity, the way that they control their possessions. After being a coach this year, being a coach last year, seeing a lot from I take a lot away from these games and these teams, man. And their sets too,
Absolutely.
incredible, incredible, man.
The thing too, I feel like there's a lot of talent that's in the U Sports that could easily play in Division 1 basketball in the
Yeah,
NCAA.
yeah,
Those some of those guys that are still in U Sports, they choose to stay in Canada. There are a lot of players that have done that in the past. Like perfect example, Grant Shepard when he
mm,
was with Montverde, then goes to the Canadian that Canada team that won gold,
right.
the right under 17 under 19s or 17s at the
Under I
time.
think 17 or 19, yeah, 17 probably.
Yeah, with that squad with RJ, with Lindell, with
Lindell, yeah,
Nate and all of those guys.
yeah. That team was his problem.
That
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
yeah,
then he had offers to go play Division 1 basketball. Grant
yeah.
Shepard had decides, you know what, I'm gonna stay home. I'm gonna go back to Vancouver and play for UBC, then transfer to Carleton, win a national championship, win numerous titles across Canada. But that's just an example of those players like Malcolm Christie. His game could easily transition to Division 1 basketball.
Mhm.
Gian Gala could play Division 1, but like those
Okay, okay,
guys,
yeah,
they're hoopers.
yeah.
You know, like all of them, like
Hmm.
Robinson,
Hmm.
Mafia, like
Well,
Siles, like these guys play in the CBL over the summer, and that's as
right.
close as you would get to like that toughness, that next level athleticism, that next level shooting execution, and defensive presence and physicality. All those things add up, and then it transitions to the U Sports development and how they perform. So obviously, this talent, this Canadian talent that we have here, and a bunch of international players that also choose to come to, represent U Sports institutions is just through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, all those guys, right? And you even talk about the Winnipeg Westmen as well too. They got guys in that team that could easily play D1 basketball too. Like it's the talent gap is not there. Like skill development, if we're just talking on a grand scale, everything's on the same par. We have trainers here, the coaches, the facilities, the resources, just like the states, and a lot of the players that recruited on a heavy basis to the states, so on. So I coach some guys that are going to go with Acadia and Guelph and play that. Like, you see more the recruitment up there too. It's always been there, but especially Mafa, even like the guys from the U of Ottawa, they can play D1. Like everything I see, solid. Those guys can play D1. So I'm really proud, obviously, to be Canadian and watch these guys play, but the level has just been risen up, and I'm actually glad with Dave Smart not being there. It's wide open. Carleton's not necessarily there. I think if he was still coaching, he would still be dominating. And now looking back and seeing, okay, you're obviously a young guy. I was young too, but seeing the years that he's won the nationals and of course OUA over the years, you realize how difficult that is to do. Like having like I don't think people really gonna understand having the scrub twins, the scrub brothers, having I can't remember the name. Names don't come to mind, but the amount of guys they've had, having like Marcus from Branson. Oh my god, I can't remember his last name. But
Marcus Anderson.
Marcus Answer. So I played for my brother's team, knowing his family really well. Always over at his house, of course, know the family very well. Marcus Anderson, been a problem, was on my brother's rep team from when they were young all the way to around 13, and seeing him blossom in Dave Smart system. There's so many guys that have come through the ranks and played for this guys and played for that particular team, and he's made them into pros. He's made them into great men. Like seeing what he's done over the years is incredible. And I don't really think people realize how hard it is for them to win as much as they did. But seeing how open it is right now, and then the talent disparities all around from the west side of Canada to end, man, so proud to be Canadian. And we haven't even talked about Winnipeg Westman yet, but they're a problem as well too. They have a lot of guys that are a lot, very, very, very seasoned, um, experience. I think the overall theme for all this is that all these teams have experience and young players that contribute towards what they're doing, right? Like really experienced guys. You can go down. the list, but team, really good team, the Winnipeg team. And a lot of guys would be like, "Oh, they're from Winnipeg, they're not gonna be able to play." No, these guys are nasty, and they're gonna be a problem too. I think they're definitely someone that can go out there and cause some problems.
Absolutely. Their guard play is actually incredible. Like,
Yeah.
I unfortunately haven't had the chance to see them play this year at UBC at the War Memorial Gym, but they have been very consistent. They've been ranked throughout the entirety of this, basketball season. And they did take UVic to distance, right, for Vikes eventually to clinch that Canada West title. It wasn't easy by any stretch of imagination. It was really competitive and it was a high scoring game, and those guys could really put up some high numbers on you if you don't come prepared defensively.
Hmm.
So, having the talent at the guard play, and having
Right.
those guys to really show up and shoot lights out and kind of execute the pick and roll action is really something that they could be using it against the Queens Gales,
Hmm.
which they do have the team, and those guys also have a lot of experience. Those Siles brothers,
Hmm.
they are cold.
They cook mans. They really cook mans.
They are
Those,
cold.
yeah. And I remember they were playing like the one that hit the game winner. He played for Team Canada when he was younger as well too, and he was actually
Hmm.
good on Team Canada and Team Ontario as well too. Like we haven't even talked about those guys, but going back to Winnipeg, there's a guy named Stewart. I watched some of his tape. He's pretty good as a guard as well too. A really really good player. But when it comes to the Queens Gales, man, they've been riding high for the entire year. But the Silence, the twins or just brothers, those guys are pros. Like you just, and this is what I was going to bring up to you. A lot of all these teams, what they run is exactly the same sets and offensive sets you see in Europe. Like they run these
Hmm.
same sets, zoom action. They run obviously the 4 out really well. They press. They defense excellent, but they're all able to shoot. Like no, I don't really think I've seen a bad shooting team in these 8. I haven't really seen too much about Laval or Winnipeg, but I know for a fact all those teams have shooters that can just light it up on a consistent basis, right? So, man, Queens Gales, incredible way to end the season. Just incredible at the R2. Like, I listen. I don't remember the last time Queens has been this good at basketball, but man, Silas, all these guys, incredible. Of course, just sneaking by, you got to give credit to the Brock Badgers. Of course, they get a chance to be right there, but their run was incredible as well too. But to be at the Arc, those guys being so proficient in basketball and football, because of course we rave about their football program. It is still a football school, but my goodness, the basketball program has just risen up. And Jay Billis said, Jay Billis, I don't know if you're a big fan of that guy. He said he doesn't like
Of
court
course.
storming because Filipowski got injured, Kalen Clark got injured. Filipowski was doing windmills this past weekend after being stormed. And he's saying, "Oh, he was hurt. He's hurt." Yo, there should always be court storming. I don't care what it is. If you don't like fun, then it means you don't like court storming. If you like fun, you like court storming. So I can't wait to watch this
To
team.
be honest, it's kind of like awareness. I don't even know who to blame. You know what I mean? It's like I know it's bound to happen, so you have to be prepared for those things. And yeah, it's unfortunate that it happened to one of the top prospects in college basketball that probably will be going top 10 this year in the NBA's draft. But it's one thing. It's like it's part of the game.
Hmm.
Like, what happens when it's a no name that could potentially get hit? Do we treat it the same way? Because I remember a lot of court storming happen, and there are guys on the court trying to like dodge everything, make sure they're not at
Exactly.
the bottom of that pile. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah, man.
I think we have to treat it the same way when we talk about it. But that court storming by the Queens crowd was incredible, dude. It's like shot goes up, banks in. Next thing you know, you don't see a single Brock player on the floor.
Exactly. They're all gone. Even though you saw,
They're all
the
gone.
heads, they're all gone, man. They had to go because you never know what happened, man. But speaking of the Queens Gales, man, of course you have Luca and Cole Silas. I think Luca's, averaging around 14 points per game, and of course his brother averaging around 17. Like they're problems. They're just a problem, and they're lengthy as well too, right? So they play a
Mhm.
little bit of a tweener. They can post you up. They can kick it from outside. It's such a you can kind of compare it to, oh, I would never say Luca because no one's really like Luca, but just the body wise, being able to still post you up and be able to get to the rack, unreal. And of course, they have, some veterans in Cameron Bett and Aaron Tennant that are also really good. Fofo at a token. I remember watching Fofo when he was in prep school around here in Ontario, and now he's doing such a good job with the Queen Gales. Man, they have guys all over the board, and I don't think they're not gonna be an easy out at all. I think they're really gonna ride the momentum and beat Winnipeg.
100%.
Yeah.
You want, it's true. It's you catch fire at the right time. It's like you have to figure out how to put it out. I think it will come down really, like that matchup specifically will come down really to the execution, and knowing how Dalhousie plays the game of basketball, how Rick Plato, Rick Plato's culture in that, like that, within that Dalhousie Tiger squad is operating. It's like it all comes down to who and how they will defend in the game, because I think what they did really well against the Saint FX squad, they had two guys that were primary defenders, and they did a tremendous job. Dolu Johnson, who is mostly coming off the bench, had played an incredible minutes down the stretch for the Tigers. Then obviously Sam Maya being present, being that sizable guard who, who could play defense and guard 1 through 5 easily, because he has that height advantage to him and he's got the length and athleticism. I think it'll all come down to that, whether the Badgers will be able to slow down Christie from the three, whether they will be able to take away some of that gameplay from Ngala. So it really will come down to the defensive end of the floor and not so much the offense.
Does Laval? This is probably a dumb question, but does Laval make it because it's in Laval?
Yeah, they are in because they
They're
host.
hosting it. Oh, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna get slapped in the first game. Just letting you know, they're gonna get slapped.
They should.
Yeah,
In all honesty, it's Victoria is top dog, pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah. The
It's top
top dog.
dog there. It's theirs. In my opinion, it's truly theirs to lose.
Right.
However, I do believe that those guys really could go all the way. And there's like, how do you stop all these options? Like Mafia, Robinson, then Elias Ralph, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I don't want to mess it up, but he's
Yeah.
another guy who could shoot the ball. They have guys that could defend. It's gonna be up for grabs in that semifinal round, because whoever advances in there is pretty much, there's
Yeah.
no predictions. I don't think there's predictions, because Dal could match up well against Vic.
Victoria.
Brock could
Yeah.
easily match up well against Vic. Gales and UCAM could match up against each other really well. Then Ottawa, GG's, if they go past UCAM, could match up well against Queens.
Well,
And
Queens.
they
Yeah.
could play against each other because they know each other
They know
and
each
they
other's
see each other
games.
so
Or
often, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not going to be any different preparation from what they had in regular season.
Right.
In a way, it will be, obviously, because playoff basketball is different. But at the end of the day, you know exactly who to take away. You know who the shooters are. You know where to find Connor Kelly when he's on the floor. You don't help off him, or you know how to defend Cole and Luke Siles,
Yeah.
and kind of figure that out. And then
Mhm.
Westman as well. Like they could put up points on the board.
Mhm.
So if they
It-
roll
it's
past you
awesome.
offensively, it's really hard to slow them down.
Hey, this is the time as well too when you see these teams play. It's like who really has that clutch gene? Like who's gonna show up when the lights are brightest? And you kind of see like these guys are most of these guys are gonna play pro for sure, but you see the guys that step up when their numbers called, right? So we can just go down the list. I guess I got you. I'll give you my take, and of course you want to get my take. It's your show, but like Victoria Bikes versus Valerie, we're gonna both gonna take Victoria Bikes to go through there, right?
Absolutely,
Obviously,
yes.
yeah. Dalhousie versus Brock. I'm gonna go with the Brock
You
Badgers,
could say
man. I
it.
think
It's
that
okay. You could say it.
yeah, sorry, man. I just think Brock's beating better teams than Dalhousie. Like I love Maya. I think he's a great player. I watched like a lot of his tape and some other guy. I know there's other guys I'm missing, obviously, but I'm gonna say Brock kind of squeaks in there because they beat in better teams. But who knows, right? They've been on such a run. After you have that loss, it's like, damn, how do you get it back, right? So that'll be tough. What do you have to say about that?
To be honest, obviously, yeah, like you said, Vic is going through past Laval, no problem. I believe that Dal, however, this is going to be a little bit of bias here because I've covered them, I've seen them, I know what playoff basketball is like with Dalhousie. I've seen them take teams to distance.
Right.
Like when I
Right.
say like they could be down 15 and next thing you know they're like
Far
up
up.
or
Yeah.
tied. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So though and they got the guys that could put up the numbers like we said earlier. And
Mhm.
when you talk about their teams like who they played against, they played against some competition that same, same teams that Queens played against, right? They played against Toronto, they beat Toronto. They
Yeah.
played against Lakehead. They played against Toronto Metropolitan TMU. They lost by 17 in preseason to them, nine
Yeah.
actually 18.
18
And
loss.
then you look at it like, well, they beat other guys like McGill and stuff like that. They're preseason, they're tested. They've played so many teams. They beat Calgary and they beat them by
Oh
5.
wow.
You know what I mean? In a high
Yeah.
scoring game. But then that AUS was so wide open this year of how competitive it was and how tight and close it was. Like I think the competition was there. It's kind of like the Big Ten teams in basketball most of the
Mhm.
years, except for this year. I feel
Mhm.
like they'll have probably 6 teams in a tournament, 5 to 6.
Mhm.
But normally that conference is just everyone is going at it. That top tier, like those top 8 teams, like Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan
Yeah.
State,
Mhm.
Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Those teams normally just get in based on the fact that they play against each
Playing
other
each other. Yeah.
and based on the fact that those teams potentially, well, Michigan State played against Duke. They
Mhm.
beat Duke, we beat Michigan State, so we kind of have that little bit of a advantage to us.
Leeway.
So I
Yeah.
think with the AUS, that's how it was this year. Anyone was able to beat anyone, and it kind of prepared them to like,
For this
well,
moment.
we know what we could expect. We played in the close games, we played in the blowouts. We came back from behind, and we dominated some games. So they know how to play in each and every scenario that could be handed to them in the final 8. And anything goes. But I have to stick with Dow just based on the fact that they have Rick Plato, they have the coaching experience,
Malcolm
and
Christie.
they have the guys that could do it and get it done for you.
Mhm.
So I have to go with the Tigers. On the other side of the bracket, I think it could go either way again with the Citadin and the GGs. Both teams match up incredibly well against each other. Both teams have shooters, athletes, and have good point guard play. But I might have to roll with the Montreal North represent guys. That could get it done. And in a way, they do have the home court advantage. I know there will be a lot of fans. Some of my friends probably that I played with will be at those games, and it'll really come down to the wire in that game. And I think Queens is gonna take care of business against the Westmen.
There we go, man. And once again, it is close to Ottawa, though. Don't get it twisted. I know a lot of Ottawa GG people will be going there, but your boy Malcolm Christie and Maye, those guys are problems, right?
Those guys, yeah, and G and Gala, those three
Yeah,
guys together, they could put up
some numbers.
double digits every single game.
Mhm. Yeah, they're problems. Okay, there you go. So, and with that, yeah, from going down, I'm kind of riding with you. Other than I'm taking the Ottawa GGs because I've seen a little bit of them play a little bit more, and I haven't seen Lacey Didn't play. But yeah, I'm gonna take Queens. Queens against whoever's there. I'm really gonna ride with Queens, man, because they've shown that they're battle tested. I just think they have the length, man. They have senior guard play, like a senior guard play. Guys in that team that are just like you watch them play, you're like, yo, these guys are super mature for their age. Like very mature. Like even the guy off the bench, I can't remember his name. They're 24. I can't remember his name, but he's a really like they all are very, very mature. And of course, Fofo and I've watched Fofo for years. I just think they have the juice right now, and I think they're gonna get to the finals. And I think they're gonna play the Vikes. Will be the Vikes. I know it's probably not gonna happen because you never see a 1 versus 2. But I'm gonna take the Vikes versus. Well, anyways, we'll get down there. We can keep going, eh?
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna say anything reckless, but I
Yeah,
would
you're gonna say
love, I
Dallas.
would love for, I would love for Dal to go through the Vikes. I think They are battle tested and they could potentially do it. However, I think the Vikes might have a little more firepower to them. They have Diego Mafia, they have Robinson, they have Elias Ralph. Those guys could, just like Maye, Christie, and Giangallo, they could put up numbers.
Mhm.
They shoot the three really well. And again, anything goes out the window in the playoffs, and you want to say that, you know, either team can get it. And like we said, it's anyone's to grab, maybe except for Laval. But I think, it's going to be a really tough matchup. And I'd say it could be either a really close game between those two, or it could be a blowout
Mhm.
going one way or another, most likely going the way of the Vikes. But in the very, very close game, I have to go with the Vikes. And then obviously Queens and, depending on who they match up against is going to be a little tough. But if they do match up against the GGs, I could see them losing to the GGs. And
There he
then
goes.
potentially UVic and Ottawa in the final, but UVic
I want
taking an L.
see. I want to see if I can bet on it, but I know for a fact that when this tournament is always very close games to the last minute, to like the last second. Like I know for a fact if Dow plays the Vikes, I know it's gonna be a close game. Like I know for a fact, like it has to be a close game. But
It will be.
yeah, it will be a really because they can play, they can defend too, and I've seen a little bit of Dow, and I wish I watched a little bit more over the years, but over the year, but wow. But so I'm gonna take Queens over Winnipeg, Aubergis over the I'm gonna take Queens over the GGs.
Repeat after me, citadin.
Citadin, citadin. Je suis pas français, hein? Je suis
Je parle français aussi. On peut pratiquer ici live sur le podcast
Le podcast, ah
94
oui.
sur 50
Je suis
avec Ilyas
94 plus
Kurbanov.
Ah
Oh
oui,
my.
ah oui, ah oui. Tabernacle. No, but yeah, other than that, man, we have that. And I'm gonna say, man, man, I know you love your Vikes. Sorry, your Dalhousie Tigers, but I'm gonna take the Vikes to go to the finals, and it's all on CBC, which is great, and they have TBA as well too, and I'm gonna be watching them all. And yeah, it's gonna be a great weekend, man. And I think if the Queens Gales, it's really match up against the, I wouldn't be surprised if Ottawa goes through and like squeaks past the Gales. How okay? How Let me ask you the question: If the Gales,
Yeah,
if the GGs go through, all right,
yeah.
and end up beating the Gales, right? I'm obviously from Ontario, and they end up beating
Mm-hmm.
the Gales, and then they end up going to the finals. Is that more of a win than? And they end up going to the finals and probably win. Is it more of a win for the program, Ottawa, than winning the OUA championship? Like I just winning this is bigger than the because you've seen teams do it before. You've seen teams lose in the conference championship or their conference championship and then end up winning nationals.
Well, that's exactly what happened to Carleton last year. They lost to
Exactly.
Ottawa in the finals, and then they clutched it in double OT against Santa Fe in the national championship game.
There we go. Right. So is that so? Now you're a national championship rather than. So I'm just wondering how that
Absolutely.
works.
Who would want to have a conference championship over a national title?
I still
Like
think it's a
no
win,
one
man.
in the right mind would want to be like, we won the conference. Who cares?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. No, I know, but
I'd
you can
rather
still be
lose the
like,
if I'm playing in the conference championship, I'd rather lose conference any day of the week. And if
yeah,
I win the national title, one of my favorite quotes. I don't know if you ever watched the Moneyball. I assume you have.
yeah, yeah. First,
But my favorite quote from that movie is nobody gives a shit if you lose your last game of the season.
that is
Because
true.
everything really goes out of the window. Who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares if you made to the finals? No one is going to
Mhm.
remember you being in the finals.
Mhm.
Everyone's going to remember, well, that team beat you.
Yeah, that team beat you. That's it.
You
That's
know,
it. That's all.
like
That's
Carlton,
true.
Carlton won the national title. Who cares if they lost the conference? You know what I mean? So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, you could be ranked number one all year long. You could be the best team coming into the tournament, and nobody will ever mention it if you lose
If
the
you lose,
national title game.
right? Unless you lose
So
to a 16 seed like UMBC and you're you're the Virginia
yeah, but
Cavaliers,
that's
right?
different though. But
Yeah.
okay. That's different. You know what I mean? We're talking about actual things that happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
16
Yeah.
over one though last year. Remember Purdue also lost. So
Purdue, yeah, Purdue. But I've seen this guy on Instagram that's saying that the Boston Celtics will win. He already predicted that The Chiefs would win, and you predicted that the Celtics would win this year and Purdue would win. I'm like, man, I cannot for the life of me put money on Purdue or bet that Zach Edey, these guys are going to win the championship this year because it can go against everything I love as a Big Ten supporter. But I can never do it. He predicted everything else. Like everything else was right. You know what I'm talking about on Instagram.
Yeah.
Anyways,
The thing
that's
is,
neither here nor there.
the thing is with NCAA basketball, like for the past few years, experience has won the tournament.
Right.
It was never a team that really had the firepower of one and dones. Because even look at how good was Duke with RJ and Zion.
Oh man, so good. Beating
Who did
Michigan
they lose
State.
to? They lost to Michigan State.
Michigan
Why?
State, yeah.
Because they
Great.
had Cassius Stanley.
Yep.
They had all those guys that had so
Xavier.
many years. Xavier Ward,
Ward,
like all
yeah.
those guys, like they were in there.
Yeah, they had some guys.
So it's
And then
like,
guy that's on the Memphis Grizzlies. I can't remember his name, but he was another guy on that team, is on the Michigan State team. Anyways, that's neither here nor
I
there.
know
We
who
can
you're
go on.
talking about. I know who you're
Yeah, yeah,
talking about, but I'm
he,
also forgetting him.
yeah. But no,
Um,
great. No,
he got traded though. He got traded. He's no
he
longer in
got traded.
Memphis. I know that.
Okay. But anyhow, yeah. Anyways, my bad. So yeah, with that, it's so hard to win this tournament, and then obviously you have less teams in this than you do in the national championship with March Madness, and hopefully we have a conversation about March Madness too.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, good.
Come on now.
Come on,
Silly
of course we
questions.
are. Yeah,
Silly questions.
Okay, so we're gonna go.
What are you talking about?
Of course. So after the Gales get past the GGs, I'm sorry, but let's see. I want to see the Vikes versus the Gales, and I think the Vikes take it, man. Like it's been great. I'm not gonna. I know it's a basketball pod right now, but seeing in football, I shouldn't bring it up. But with football, the teams in the West or Montreal just killing Ontario teams, man. So I don't know if it's just a theme for the year and how these other provinces are just catching up or have gotten better or recruiting better than the Ontario teams. But man, I really think it's the Vikes' season to lose. It's really their championship to lose, man.
I agree.
They've
And
beaten some good teams. Yeah.
again, though, yeah, that boy Diego Mafia is,
He's a great shooter.
dude. When they played at UBC, I believe it was in November. I called the women's game, and then I was there for the men's game, and the way he was, like, he wasn't scoring a lot, but he puts up shots. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
does not care.
Mm-hmm.
He is not like he will shoot anything you give him. Like, he's that good of a player,
Mm-hmm.
and he has that green light, rightfully so. So he can create off the dribble. He's very patient. Like, he may not be the biggest guy on the court, but he certainly plays like he is.
Like this.
You know what I mean? He gets to the rim. He knows, like, he's patient with his dribble, change of pace on the court, like reading the play. Like, some of his dimes that he makes, I'm like, how'd you, like, what are you
Hey, you
doing?
see that? Yeah,
Like,
some skill.
how do you see this? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, he's got eyes on the back of his head, and he's that good of a scorer. So I don't know. It's gonna be whoever has to match up against Mafia is gonna have a nightmare of a matchup.
Like everything you described is what people say about Luca, how he's just unstoppable, right? Luca Doncic, and he does he remind you a little bit of Jimmer Fredette? Obviously, more of a distributor, but a little bit like Jimmer.
By far, I would say the way he's controlling the pace of the game, he actually reminds me of Luca.
Luca,
And
yeah.
don't, like, let's forget about the levels of play. Obviously, like NBA, like university basketball, they don't compare. Like,
Hmm.
but you could still see flashes of the game. Maybe not as fast as Luca. Maybe not as, like, you know what I mean. Maybe not as
Obviously.
athletic. Maybe not, like, obviously it's,
Luca's huge,
come
man.
on.
Yeah,
Like, we know NBA and U Sports basketball is like two different levels.
yeah, of course.
Everybody, let's get this out of the window. But the way he really controls the pace and able to get to the rim and find his guys, get everyone involved, engage the defenders and making everyone kind of play off, like, up. You have to find a way to go. You have to guard him. Like you cannot like give him space because if you give him space, he'll shoot it over you. He'll shoot it from anywhere. He does not care. You've seen him pull from the logos in freaking playoffs. He does that. And then if you play too close, he will beat you off the dribble. He might not be the most athletic guy, but he will beat you off the dribble just by using his handle and his pace, change of pace is just on a next level. So it's like,
So off the screen, you
it,
really have to hedge hard. You really have to hedge hard if you're screening.
well, you have to, yeah, because
Yeah.
otherwise you go under, he'll shoot it over it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kind of trail, you chasing him, and you don't want to chase him because he's got the mid-range game. He could float it up. He could dish it out to his big on a pick and roll. So he's that guy. Like he's that type of a player that could, engage everyone. Like anyone who's on the court is kind of like, he's controlling the game in a way.
And that's really why it's so hard. And I know we obviously know it's different levels, but that's why it's so hard to stop Luka. Like no one can really stop Luka because he's so smart. He's obviously so cerebrally smart. Plus, he can score whenever he wants and get to the basket whenever he wants. And if you don't show hard, he's gonna shoot it. He's gonna make it most at a high clip. He's just a great player. And I know he's gonna play pro. Like half of these guys, the reason I love this is because these guys are already pros. You really think about it. These guys are already pro. Like Muff is already a pro. You can go down. I think Malcolm Christie's a pro. I think
100%, 100%.
For sure. I think a lot of these guys are already pros and can actually start on pro teams. So I know for a fact you're gonna be great. So that's why it's gonna be a great tournament, man. But I have the Vikes winning. I'm gonna go with Victoria because I don't think anyone can guard that that guy plus anyone on that team. But that's just me being someone that didn't watch that much. But you never know. Like the GGs might go and win it too, man.
But again, in a tournament, anything happens. Like we see it every year. March Madness, U Sports. Like when Carlton lost in 2018, when Carlton lost, I believe to. I don't remember whether it was the former Ryerson or Calgary that beat them to get to the finals. But either way, you had Calgary win on the last play of the tournament.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like anything happens in those games and in those settings. So it's anyone's game. It's whoever shows up prepared, whoever executes, whoever is disciplined, whoever showcases that, no quit mentality. And it's because at the end of the day, it's the ball is round, those hoops are round,
94 feet.
and 94. You run the same dimensions. You pass the same rock, and the team that wins, whoever puts up the most points on the board. It's fundamental. The game is simple, but that simplicity needs to be executed to perfection.
There we go.
For you to win.
There we go. Cannot wait, man. But I'm gonna take the Vikes to win. Who are you taking to win the entire tournament?
I'm gonna have to go with the Vikes, but I'm deep inside. I'm rooting for
Dow
the Tigers, of course. For my guys.
If the Dow Tigers end up winning and beating the Vikes, you have to do at least 50 push-ups on camera, man. At least 50 push-ups on camera. At least
50 on camera. Damn,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to practice, man. I haven't done those in a long time.
or have to do like one of those cold plunges if Dalhousie beats the Vikes. You have to agree. Those are your guys.
Okay. Let's put it this way: if Dalhousie beats the Vikes to go to the finals and they win the championship, I'm doing the cold plunge. I got you.
There you go. Perfect. I'll do it too. I'll do it too.
I'll do the cold plunge. If Dow wins, we're doing a cold plunge. It's going to be, matter of fact, we'll live stream that.
That would be, I will literally live stream it. I'll put my phone down there. Yeah, if Dalhousie wins, we are cold plunging. We are cold plunging if Dalhousie.
Bet. Sounds like a deal. But now I don't even mind if I have to cold plunge because I want them
your
to
team's
win.
Your team's win. I know they're. Listen, I don't think they're gonna win. I think they're facing some tough teams.
It's like you have to go with your mind, but deep inside with your heart, you have to go with your team. So I'm going with Dow, but I think in my mind, I think Vikes are taking it
for sure. Have you played ball against those guys or played with like on a run?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
dude.
And those guys.
G and Gala, we're from the same neighborhood in Montreal.
Nice.
Like I used to play for his older brother. Shout out Bowie.
Oh, wow.
I used to play for his older brother. Like his brothers are all hoopers. They all played. His
Right.
brother
Of course.
Bowie played for McGill for a second. Then he had to play soccer because I think he injured his wrist and he couldn't play basketball anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then John in Gala, shout out to John, who is also a journalist in the Montreal. I believe he's working with CBC.
Mm-hmm.
His other brother is working in music, and then G, he's been the one that who's stuck with basketball the longest and who is literally a product of work ethic and determination. That guy is a gym rat. Like he
Mm-hmm.
works on his body, he works on his game, like he's competitive. So I've seen G from the age, I believe, what, how old is he now? I think he's 24, 25. But
Okay,
I've
so young.
seen him when he was 12, dude.
Wow.
I've
Okay.
seen him being the undersized kid at the park who just wanted to hoop,
Oof, yeah.
to being potentially undersized for a point guard. He's not that tall or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
he is a
Dog.
hooper and he's a
Dog.
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 Like
Yeah. Yeah.
literally he definitely is the number one hooper that came out of that area, who's
Mm-hmm.
still hooping, who is definitely, like, knock on wood, goes pro.
Goes
You know,
pro.
there's no doubts in my mind he will play somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But then Malcolm, dude, like anytime I played in runs against him,
Kill you guys,
I
eh?
don't even know why I had to defend him. Like
How tall? How
he's
tall is he? Like 6'3", 6'4",
6'5".
6'5".
He's
Okay,
six
6'5".
five,
So
dude.
and get a shot up whenever he wants, eh? Nasty,
Quick.
quick
You leave
too,
him
eh?
open. You leave him open. You might as well go on the opposite end of the floor because
Yeah,
he's
that's
not
tough.
missing.
Yeah,
One and two, like his game is effortless, dude. He
yeah.
gets up.
Mm-hmm. Easily.
He get like when I say he would clear me, no problem. He gets up, like, dude.
Yeah, those guys are
That
ballers,
guy's an
man.
athlete, bro.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Sam too. Like, how do you defend his size? Like, how do you defend his pose game? Like, bro, that shake and fadeaway jumper. Oh my god, that was beautiful.
That
Watching that
was
live, that hoop was crazy.
yeah. Doesn't he remind
You
you of
know,
Matthew Mayer from Baylor?
from Baylor, like the way they look. Yeah,
Yeah, wait, like,
absolutely,
not the
absolutely.
game because Mayer
Yeah,
just
yeah.
he just fill it up,
Mayer is just a shooter,
a
lights
shooter,
out.
lights out, man.
Transferred to Illinois. I don't know where he's playing now, but I think he's
Yeah,
done with D1. He's definitely pro somewhere. But
yeah, I think he's pro right now. He's pro right now, but
yeah,
yeah, a bunch of these guys.
but yeah,
Mayer,
played
Malcolm.
against a lot of those guys. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, mm,
it's definitely, and played against a lot of guys that played for UCAM as well. Like whether it was college or like varsity basketball growing up and whatever. Like some of those guys are hoopers, man.
yeah.
It's like,
So
but
Mayer's actually playing for the Texas Legends, who's in the G League. He's in the G League right now.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.